we are going to continue with illustration 2 on complex console. By illustration 2, it is just going to be a self-assessment because it's just going to be the same figures in example 1 that we looked at in our previous video. But here we are going to assume the following. We are going to assume that the figures in example 1 are the same, right? And S purchased its holdings in SS on 1st July 20x4, and P purchased its holding in S on 1st July 20x5. The same figures, right? The same figures. And here, the retained earnings figure of the respective dates of acquisition are the same, right? But on the date that P purchased its holdings in S Co, right, the retained earnings of SS Co were $60,000. It is a group's policy to measure non-controlling interest as proportionate share of fair value of the subsidiary's net assets. Required, I will go through and prepare the console statement of financial position. The solution, when you do everything right, if you have any issue, we can discuss it in our live section. But when you do everything right, the balancing figure should be 639.2 K, right? The figures are going to be the same. The figures are going to be the same, but we realize that the date is changing. See, the date is changing. The date that P acquires its holdings in S is on 1st July, and the date that S acquired its holding in SS is on rather what 1st July 20x4. Right, so here we're going to have subsidiary and sub-subsidiary in existence before you bring the what before we acquired the subsidiary. Right, so here the date of acquisition for both subsidiary and sub-subsidiary will be the same, because usually there was the subsidiary and the sub-subsidiary on 1st July 20x4 before parents came to acquire the S on 1st July 20x5. So when the parent was acquiring the subsidiary on 1st July 20x5, on that same date the parent acquired the what sub-subsidiary. So you have to go through, you have to take your time, you sit down, go back to the your slides, pick the same data, but here the date of acquisition is changing, right? The date that the subsidiary acquires the sub-subsidiary is rather 1st July 20x4, and the date that the parent acquires the subsidiary is rather 1st July 20x5, right? Nothing has changed. So please go through. And the only thing that is given to make the question slightly different from what you've seen in the first illustration is to change the retained earnings. And the retained earnings figure for the respective date of acquisition are the same, but on the date that P acquired its holding in S, right, the retained earnings of SS, by the date that P acquired its holdings in S, the retained earnings in SS were what, were 60,000. What it is trying to tell you is that when you do your workings, and in the previous video, there is retained earnings of SS, right, on 1st July 20 what x4, but this retained earnings you will not use it. It's the retained earnings of S when we acquired what the retained earnings of SS when we acquired S, what we use, that's the what, the 60 what thousand. You get it? Because when P acquired S, the retained earnings will be given. But in the previous illustration, the retained earnings when P acquired S is not there. So examiner is telling that at the date that P acquires its investment in S, the retained earnings of SS on that date was 60,000. When you are doing your workings to the retained earnings of SS at the date of acquisition is going to be 60,000. Right? So we ignore any previous retained earnings. Okay. Very simple. Go through. If you have any issue, let me know in the live section. I don't think you have an issue. You should take your time to go through. You can have a peer-to-peer review before we come to the have a peer-to-peer review before we come to the live section. Thank you very much for your time. Take your time and go through the illustration 2. In our next video, we record illustration 3, right, to build more foundational knowledge in this complex group workings. Thank you very much. Bye bye.